The morning sun cast golden light through the massive windows of the Unity building in New Geneva. President Catherine Walsh stood before the mirror in her office, adjusting the blue diplomatic sash that marked her as Earth's leader. Today would change everything. After 8 years of careful work, the 5th Galactic Peace Summit would finally bring 12 more alien species into the coalition. Kate had gray hair now, though she was only 52. The stress of leading humanity through its greatest diplomatic age had aged her, but her green eyes still burned with determination. She remembered when Earth was just another human world. Now it was the beating heart of galactic civilization. Outside, her window, she could see the embassy district. 17 different alien buildings rose into the sky, each one designed to make their species feel at home. The Altarian embassy looked like a crystal mountain. The Vegan embassy was a living tree that grew new rooms as needed. Even the strange metal sphere that housed the Robotic Nexus delegation had become a beloved part of the skyline. "Madam President," came a voice behind her. Kate turned to see Dr. Ryan Clark, her science advisor and oldest friend. Ryan had been with her since the beginning, back when humans barely understood alien technology. Now he could speak 7 alien languages and had helped write the Galactic Accords. "Ready for the big day?" Ryan asked, holding up a datapad. "The final guest. List shows representatives from over 40 species. That's more than we've ever had at one summit." Kate smiled. "Hard to believe we started with just 5 species in the first coalition meeting. Remember how scared everyone was?" "The Draknari thought we were going to eat them," Ryan laughed. "And the Felinians refused to leave their ship for 3 days, because they said we smelled like wet fur." Those early days had been difficult. Humans were new to the galactic community. Most alien species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years, while humans had only left Earth a few centuries ago. Many aliens saw humans as primitive or dangerous. There had been good reasons for their fear. Before Kate became president, humans had a reputation as warriors. They fought brutal wars among themselves and were known for never giving up in battle. When humans first met aliens, there had been conflicts. Some alien species tried to attack human colonies, thinking humans would be easy to defeat. They learned quickly that humans were anything but easy prey. But Kate had changed all that. As a former military officer, she understood both war and peace. She convinced the world that humans could be more than just fighters. They could be peacemakers. Under her leadership, Earth became neutral ground where alien species could meet safely. The transformation had been remarkable. Human soldiers became peacekeepers. Human weapons factories started building medical equipment and farming tools. The great warships that once protected human space were converted into research vessels and diplomatic transports. Commander Jake Sullivan walked into the office wearing his dress uniform. Jake commanded what was left of Earth's military fleet, 12 ships that served as ceremonial guards and rescue vessels. Their weapons were locked with peace bonds, symbolic chains, that showed the galaxy that humans chose diplomacy over war. "Security report, Madam President," Jake said. "All embassy districts are secure. The alien delegations have been arriving all morning. The Zephyrian Empire sent a small observation team, though they're not joining the coalition yet." Kate nodded. The Zephyrians worried her. They were an insect-like species from the outer rim of the galaxy. Unlike most aliens, they seemed to have no interest in peace. Their empire was built on conquest and military strength. They viewed the coalition as weakness, and humans as naive children. "Any word from Supreme Warcast Zekth?" Kate asked. "Nothing. Official," Jake replied. "But our intelligence suggests they're not happy about the expansion. 12 new species joining the coalition means less territory for them to conquer." Dr. Lisa Chen entered the room, carrying a small alien creature that looked like a cross between a cat and a butterfly. The creature purred softly as Lisa petted its soft fur. "Sorry I'm late," Lisa said. The Valdorian ambassador's pet was sick. Turns out chocolate is poisonous to their species. Good thing they asked before trying human food. Lisa was Earth's chief expert on alien biology. She had spent years learning how different species lived, what they ate, and what made them happy. Her work had prevented dozens of accidents that could have started wars. Many aliens trusted her more than their own doctors. "How are the preparations going?" Kate asked. "Perfect," Lisa smiled. The Christech delegation finally figured out how to dim their natural light so they won't blind everyone. The Aquarians have their water suits working properly, and the Gorgon representative promised not to turn anyone to stone, even as a joke. Kate laughed despite her nerves. The diversity of the galaxy never stopped amazing her. Some aliens were made of living crystal. Others lived underwater their entire lives. A few could turn other beings to stone just by looking at them. Yet somehow, they had all learned to work together. The intercom buzzed. "Madam President, the opening ceremony begins in 1 hour." Kate took a deep breath. Today's ceremony would make history. The historic expansion accords would bring the coalition's membership to 29 species. More importantly, it would establish humans as the permanent mediators for galactic disputes. No longer would the galaxy settle arguments through war. Instead, they would bring their problems to Earth, where human diplomats would help find peaceful solutions. "You know," Ryan said quietly, "my grandfather fought in the last human war. He always said humans were born to fight. He'd be amazed to see us now." "Maybe fighting and peacemaking aren't so different," Kate replied. "Both require courage. Both require sacrifice. The only difference is what you're willing to sacrifice for." Jake checked his watch. "Ma'am, your transport is ready. The ceremony hall is filling up. Representatives from across the galaxy are waiting to see history made." Kate picked up the ceremonial signing pen, made from metal donated by each coalition species. When she signed the accords with this pen, it would represent the unity of nearly 30 different worlds. "Gentlemen, Dr. Chen," Kate said formally, "let's go make peace." As they walked through the halls of the Unity building, Kate felt the weight of history. In 1 hour, she would sign documents that guaranteed peace for generations. Humans would be remembered not as warriors, but as the species that taught the galaxy to solve problems without violence. She had no way of knowing that in less than 2 hours, she would be dead, and humanity would remember exactly why they had once been feared. Across the stars, the great assembly hall buzzed with excitement. Over 3,000 beings from 29 different species filled the massive chamber. Floating cameras captured every moment for broadcast across the galaxy. This was the largest gathering of peaceful species in galactic history. President Kate Walsh walked to the central podium, her blue diplomatic sash bright against her formal black suit. Around her, alien delegates representing billions of lives watched with hope. The Altarian. Crystals hummed soft music. The Felinian delegates purred in harmony. Even the usually silent Nexus robots had their optical sensors focused on the ceremony. Supreme Warcast Zekth watched from the observation gallery with 6 other Zephyrian officers. The insectoid aliens stood nearly 8 feet tall, their forearms ending in razor-sharp claws. Their compound eyes missed nothing as they studied the peaceful gathering below. "Look at them," Zekth clicked in the Zephyrian language, soft creatures playing at civilization. "They have forgotten that only the strong deserve to rule." "The human female speaks of peace," replied Warcast Rektal. "But their history shows they were once mighty warriors. Perhaps they remember their true nature if pushed." "Then we shall push them," Zekth said coldly. "But first we remove their leader. Without her, they will return to chaos and war. Then we can reshape this galaxy properly." On the main floor, Kate began her speech. Her voice carried clearly through the hall's translation systems, automatically converting her words into dozens of alien languages. "Friends, colleagues, fellow travelers among the stars," Kate began. "Today we write a new chapter in galactic history, not with weapons or conquest, but with understanding and cooperation." The crowd responded with various sounds of approval. Some species clapped, others whistled, and a few stomped their feet. The Gorgon delegate even managed what passed for a smile, though most beings quickly looked away to avoid accidentally turning to stone. "For too long our galaxy has known war," Kate continued. "Species fought over territory, resources, and ancient grudges. Billions died in conflicts that could have been avoided. But today, we choose a different path. In the observation gallery, Sekth made a subtle hand gesture. Throughout the hall, 12 Zephyrian agents began moving toward their assigned positions. They had spent months infiltrating the summit as servants, guards, and technical workers. Their natural ability to phase through solid matter for short periods had allowed them to plant weapons in locations no security scan could detect. Dr. Ryan Clark sat in the front row, watching his old friend make history. He felt proud of how far they had come. 8 years ago, Ryan had been a simple scientist studying alien bacteria. Now he was Earth's chief science advisor, helping to build bridges between species that had never imagined working together. Commander, Jake Sullivan stood near the main entrance, his ceremonial sword at his side. The weapon hadn't been drawn in combat for over 5 years. Jake sometimes missed the old days when humanity explored the galaxy with weapons ready and shields raised. But he had to admit that peace was better than constant war. The historic expansion accords represent more than just new memberships, Kate continued. They represent our shared commitment to solving problems through dialogue rather than destruction. When disputes arise, we will bring them to neutral Earth where human mediators will help find solutions that work for everyone. The Altarian ambassador stood and sang a brief song of celebration, her crystalline body creating beautiful harmonics. The Vegan delegate responded by growing a small flower and tossing it toward the podium. Even some of the more reserved species seemed genuinely moved by the ceremony, but in the shadows the Zephyrian agents were ready. Each one carried a plasma weapon designed to look like common tools. Their orders were simple: kill the human president and as many delegates as possible, then escape in the chaos. Kate reached for the ceremonial pen. With this signature, we pledge that the strong will protect the weak, that the wise will guide the foolish, and that all species will have a voice in their own destiny. She bent over the treaty document, the pen hovering inches above the paper. Around the galaxy, billions watched on their viewing screens. Children in alien schools stopped their lessons to witness this moment of peace. Jekth raised his hand, the signal. The first plasma blast came from behind a decorative pillar. The superheated energy struck Kate in the chest, burning through her body instantly. She collapsed without a sound, the ceremonial pen rolling across the floor. For a moment, the hall was silent, then chaos erupted. 11 more plasma blasts lit up the chamber. The Altarian ambassador shattered like broken glass. 3 Felinian delegates fell with smoking wounds. The elderly Vegan representative crumpled as his life-giving plant died with him. Screams filled the hall in a dozen languages. Delegates ran for exits that suddenly seemed impossibly far away. Security guards rushed toward the attackers, but the Zephyrians were already phasing through walls and disappearing into hidden passages. Ryan Clark threw himself toward Kate's body, but he could see it was too late. Her green eyes stared at nothing, and blood pooled beneath her still form. The woman who had brought peace to the galaxy was dead. Jake Sullivan shouted orders into his communicator, calling for medical teams and emergency lockdown. But even as he coordinated the response, his military mind was already shifting gears. Someone had just declared war on humanity, and they had no idea what they had awakened. In orbit around Earth, warning sirens began blaring on human ships. Emergency broadcasts went out to every human colony and outpost. The impossible had happened. After 8 years of peace, someone had attacked Earth's leader on neutral ground. Admiral Marcus Stone watched the feeds from his flagship bridge. The old soldier had served under Kate when she was still a military commander. He had reluctantly agreed to the peace initiatives, but he had never forgotten the lessons of war. "Sir," called his communications officer. "We're receiving distress calls from Coalition Station Alpha, Bravo, and Gamma. They're under attack by unknown vessels." Marcus felt his blood turn cold. "Identify the attackers." "Zephyrian fleet markers, sir. They're hitting all 3 stations simultaneously. Estimated casualties in the millions." The Admiral looked back at the screen showing Kate's body. This wasn't just an assassination. It was a declaration of war. The Zephyrians had made their move, striking at the heart of galactic peace and destroying humanity's greatest diplomatic achievement. But they had made one critical mistake. They thought killing Earth's leader would make humans weak and confused. They thought removing Kate Walsh would cause humanity to collapse into chaos. They were about to learn that humans had never forgotten how to fight. They had simply chosen not to. That choice had just been revoked. Marcus turned to his weapons officer. "Send a message to Earth Defense Command. Tell them to activate Protocol 7. Sir, that protocol hasn't been used in over a century. It hasn't been needed," Marcus replied grimly. "Signal all ships. We're going to war." The galaxy was about to remember why humans had once been the most feared species among the stars. 6 hours after President Walsh's assassination, the Terran Assembly convened in emergency session. The marble halls of Earth's government building echoed with angry voices as representatives from every human colony and settlement joined the debate. But there was no real debate to be had. The vote was unanimous. The Galactic War Measures Act passed 847-0. Dr. Ryan Clark stood before the assembly, still wearing his blood-stained clothes from the ceremony. His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the steel underneath. "The Zephyrian Empire has declared war on humanity and the Coalition," he announced. "They have murdered our president, destroyed 3 space stations, and killed over 2 million innocent beings. As acting science advisor, I invoke Protocol 7 under emergency powers." Murmurs ran through the chamber. Protocol 7 had been created during humanity's expansion into space, when they still fought wars regularly. It had never been used during the peaceful years under Walsh's leadership. Most young humans didn't even know it existed. Admiral Marcus Stone stepped forward from his seat in the military section. "Protocol 7 transfers all civilian authority to military command during existential threats to humanity. As senior fleet commander, I accept responsibility for our species' survival." The transformation began immediately. Across human space, dormant shipyards roared back to life. The massive orbital platforms around Earth had been converted to civilian manufacturing years ago, building everything from medical equipment to farming tools. Now they switched back to their original purpose: creating instruments of war. Captain Nicole Hayes supervised the reactivation of Luna Shipyard 7. The facility had been building passenger ships and cargo haulers for the past 5 years. Nicole watched as automated systems stripped away peaceful modifications and began installing weapons systems that had been stored in deep vault storage. "How long until we're fully operational?" asked her chief engineer, a young man named Peter Brooks, who had never seen military construction. 48 hours for basic weapons. 2 weeks for the heavy stuff," Nicole replied. "The blueprints are all still here. We just stopped using them." What Peter didn't understand yet was that humans had never actually dismantled their military capabilities. They had simply converted them. Every civilian factory could produce weapons. Every research station could manufacture ammunition. Every peaceful shipyard could build warships. The galaxy was about to learn that human peace had always been a choice, not a necessity. At the Titan Defense Complex, Captain Alex Turner walked through corridors that hadn't seen visitors in years. The massive facility housed humanity's most powerful warships, vessels that had been decommissioned but never actually destroyed. The greatest of these was the UTS Vengeance, a ship so large it had its own artificial gravity. "She's beautiful," whispered Turner's second-in-command, Lieutenant Danny Brooks. The young pilot had only read about ships like this in history books. The Vengeance stretched nearly 2 miles from bow to stern. Her hull was black as space itself, designed to absorb sensor readings and disappear against the void. During the human expansion wars, she had ended 3 different conflicts just by arriving in enemy systems. No alien species had ever seen anything like her. "Bring her online," Turner ordered. "Full power to all systems." As the great ship awakened, her weapons arrays hummed with barely contained energy. Missile tubes that could launch planet killers, energy cannons that could cut through moon-sized asteroids, shield generators that could stop anything the galaxy could throw at them. But the Vengeance was just one ship. In hidden facilities throughout human space, dozens of similar vessels began their resurrection. On Earth, Ambassador Elena Rodriguez prepared for the most important broadcast in human history. She stood in the same communication center where Walsh had announced peace treaties and trade agreements. Now Elena would announce something very different. "Citizens of the galaxy," she began, her image transmitted to every inhabited world. "The Zephyrian Empire has committed acts of terrorism against peaceful beings. They have murdered diplomats under flags of truce. They have destroyed civilian stations without warning. They have chosen war over peace." Across the galaxy, alien leaders watched with growing concern. They had grown comfortable with gentle humanity, the species that mediated disputes and built hospitals. This Elena Rodriguez was different. Her voice carried the same authority that human military commanders had once used to demand surrender from their enemies. "We call upon all civilized species to condemn these acts," Elena continued. "We demand that the Zephyrian Empire surrender their war leaders for trial. They have 72 hours to comply." "And if they refuse?" asked a Felinian reporter during the question period. Elena's smile was cold as winter space. "Then they will learn why the galaxy once feared us." The first demonstration came 18 hours later. Lieutenant Commander Sam Miller led a strike team of 12 human Marines against a Zephyrian listening post on the edge of Coalition space. The base was defended by over 200 Zephyrian soldiers, elite warriors who had conquered a dozen worlds. The battle lasted 12 minutes. Miller's team used tactics that hadn't been seen in the galaxy for decades. They didn't attack directly like most species. Instead, they used the environment itself as a weapon. They cut power to the base, forcing the Zephyrians to fight in darkness that human technology could penetrate easily. They used sonic weapons, tuned to frequencies that caused pain to insectoid nervous systems. They fought like predators, not like the civilized diplomats the galaxy expected. When the base fell, Miller's team had suffered 2 minor injuries. The Zephyrian garrison was completely eliminated. The recording of the battle spread across the galaxy within hours. Alien military commanders watched in shock as they realized that human peacekeeping forces were actually highly trained killers who had simply been holding back. Supreme Warcast Zekth received the battle reports in his command ship. The Y insectoid leader studied the tactical data with growing unease. His intelligence had said humans were weak, civilized, unable to fight effective wars. The intelligence had been wrong. "Warcast," reported his aide. "Human ships are massing at the Kepler system. Initial scans show at least 300 vessels, with more arriving every hour." "Impossible," Zekth clicked. "Our data shows humans have only 12 active warships." "The data was incorrect, Supreme Leader. These ships appear to be coming out of some form of storage. They are significant." Zekth pulled up the sensor readings and felt his confidence begin to crack. The human ships were unlike anything in the current galaxy. They were designed purely for war, with no concessions to comfort or civilian use. They looked like the vessels his species had used during their own expansion wars, but larger and more sophisticated. Dr. Ryan Clark worked frantically in his new position as Director of War Intelligence. He had spent the last day analyzing captured Zephyrian communications, and what he found made his blood run cold. The assassination hadn't been about territory or resources. The Zephyrians had a plan to eliminate humanity entirely. They viewed humans as the greatest threat to their vision of galactic domination. Walsh's death was just the beginning. "They have sleeper agents on 17 human worlds," Ryan reported to Admiral Stone. "And they're planning to release biological weapons designed specifically to kill humans." Stone's face hardened. "Then we end this quickly before they can implement their genocide plan." "Admiral," Ryan said quietly, "there's something else. The Zephyrians have been studying our old military records. They know how we used to fight wars." "Good," Stone replied. "Then they know what's coming." But what the Zephyrians didn't understand was that humans had learned new ways to wage war during their years of peace. They had studied every alien species, learned their weaknesses, and developed weapons specifically designed to exploit those weaknesses. The galaxy was about to witness the terrifying efficiency of humanity's evolved warfare. The Battle of Kepler Station began at 800 hours Galactic Standard Time, Admiral Marcus Stone commanded 300 human warships against the largest Zephyrian fleet ever assembled, 800 vessels that had conquered 47 star systems. On paper, the humans were outnumbered almost 3-1. The Zephyrian ships were larger, older, and had proven themselves in countless battles. Their crews were experienced warriors who had never known defeat. It should have been a massacre. It was, but not the way anyone expected. Captain Danny Brooks piloted his fighter craft, the Reaper, through the opening wave of the battle. The ship was barely 20 feet long, but it carried technology that would have seemed like magic to earlier generations. Quantum targeting computers tracked over 100 enemy ships simultaneously. Adaptive armor shifted density to deflect incoming fire. Micro-missiles sought targets with artificial intelligence that could think faster than any biological brain. Reaper. "Squadron, this is Lead," Danny broadcast to his wing. "Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every peaceful species in the galaxy." The human fighters moved like a school of fish, each one connected to the others through quantum communication networks. When one pilot saw a target, they all saw it. When one ship was threatened, the others moved to help. They fought as a single organism with dozens of bodies. The Zephyrians had never seen anything like it. Warcast Zekith reported his tactical officer. "The human fighters are using coordinated swarm tactics. Our targeting systems cannot lock onto them effectively." "Use area weapons," Zekth ordered. "Destroy them with plasma clouds." But when the Zephyrians fired their area effect weapons, the human fighters scattered in patterns too complex to predict. They reformed seconds later in different configurations, continuing their attack runs without missing a beat. Danny's wing eliminated 12 Zephyrian fighters in the first 10 minutes. His weapon systems were specifically designed to exploit weaknesses in insectoid technology. Electromagnetic pulses disrupted their neural interfaces. Sonic charges triggered fear responses in their primitive brains. Microviruses invaded their computer systems and turned their own weapons against them. Meanwhile, the main fleet battle showed the galaxy just how much human military thinking had evolved. Admiral Stone didn't try to outmuscle the Zephyrian fleet. Instead, he used their strengths against them. Zephyrian ships were built for frontal assault, with heavy armor and powerful forward weapons. So Stone refused to fight them head-on. Human ships appeared throughout the enemy formation using short-range teleportation technology. They struck fast and hard at rear armor, which was much weaker than the front. When the Zephyrians turned to face them, the human ships vanished and reappeared somewhere else. "It's like fighting ghosts," one Zephyrian ship captain reported before. His vessel was destroyed. Captain Nicole Hayes commanded the UTS Defender, one of the smaller human ships. Her vessel was outnumbered by 3 Zephyrian heavy cruisers, but she used tactics that turned the disadvantage into victory. "Deploy the mirror field," she ordered her crew. The Defender suddenly split into 7 identical images, each one appearing completely real to enemy sensors. The Zephyrians fired at all 7 targets, but their weapons passed harmlessly through 6 of them. Meanwhile, the real Defender attacked from an unexpected angle, crippling one enemy ship before they realized they'd been fooled. "Target their communication arrays," Nicole commanded. "Cut them off from the fleet network." Isolated and confused, the remaining Zephyrian ships became easy prey. But the most devastating human advantage was their understanding of enemy psychology. Dr. Ryan Clark had spent years studying Zephyrian behavior patterns. He knew that insectoid species relied heavily on pheromone communication and hive mind decision-making. So human ships began broadcasting artificial pheromones that caused panic and confusion in enemy crews. Zephyrian ships started attacking each other, convinced that their allies had been replaced by enemies. Orders became garbled as artificial chemicals interfered with their natural communication methods. The tight discipline that made them effective warriors collapsed into chaos. Warcast called one of Zekth's officers. "Our ships are reporting friendly fire incidents throughout the fleet. Something is interfering with our command structure." Zekith realized with growing horror that the humans hadn't just developed new weapons. They had developed new ways of thinking about war itself. Every aspect of Zephyrian biology and psychology was being turned against them. On the ground, Colonel Amy Davis led the first human assault troops in over a decade. Her soldiers wore armor that enhanced their natural abilities to superhuman levels. They moved faster than Zephyrian eyes could track, hit harder than their claws could cut, and thought quicker than their compound minds could react. The attack on Zephyrian Outpost 7 became a textbook example of human infantry tactics. Amy's soldiers didn't charge the fortified position like traditional warriors. Instead, they used the environment itself as a weapon. "Deploy the sonic scramblers," Amy ordered. "Target frequency 7.4 kilohertz. The devices broadcast sound waves that caused intense pain to insectoid nervous systems. Zephyrian soldiers dropped their weapons and fled their posts, covering their hearing organs and clicking in distress. Amy's troops walked through defenses that should have held for weeks. But the humans didn't stop there. They had studied Zephyrian biology so thoroughly that they could predict exactly how the enemy would react to different stimuli. Bright lights caused temporary blindness. Certain chemical smells triggered fear responses. Even the way humans moved could be psychologically disturbing to species that weren't used to bipedal predators. General Kevin Walsh, the late president's brother, coordinated ground campaigns across multiple worlds. His troops used biological weapons designed specifically for Zephyrian physiology. Viruses that attacked their respiratory systems, bacteria that interfered with their digestion, parasites that disrupted their sleep cycles. "Remember," Kevin told his commanders, "we're not trying to exterminate them, we're trying to make them surrender. There's a difference." The distinction mattered. Humans could have developed weapons that killed every Zephyrian in the galaxy, but they chose restraint. Even in war, they maintained their moral center. The tide of battle turned completely when Captain Alex Turner brought the UTS Vengeance into the fight. The massive ship appeared at the edge of the Kepler system like a black mountain moving through space. Her very presence changed the nature of the battle. "This is Captain Turner of the UTS Vengeance," came the broadcast on all frequencies. "Any Zephyrian vessel that surrenders immediately will be treated according to the Galactic Conventions of War. Any vessel that continues fighting will be destroyed." Supreme Warcast Zekth stared at the human dreadnought on his main screen. The ship was larger than his own flagship and radiated power like a small star. Energy reading showed weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop solar flares. "How did they build such a thing?" he whispered. His tactical officer checked the database. "Warcast, according to our intelligence, this ship is over 50 years old. It was built during the human expansion wars and then retired." The horrible truth hit Zekth like a physical blow. The ship that could single-handedly destroy his entire fleet was considered outdated by human standards. If this was what they had built 50 years ago, what weapons might they have now? The answer came quickly. Human reinforcements arrived in the form of ships that made the Vengeance look small. Vessels that had been built during the peace years as research platforms revealed themselves to be weapons of unimaginable power. The Battle of Kepler Station ended with the complete destruction of the Zephyrian fleet. Of 800 enemy ships, only 37 escaped. Human losses totaled 31 vessels, most of them damaged rather than destroyed. But the real shock came with the aftermath. Instead of celebrating their victory, human forces immediately began rescue operations. They saved thousands of Zephyrian, survivors from destroyed ships providing medical care, and treating prisoners with dignity. The galaxy watched in amazement as the same humans who had just demonstrated terrifying military power now showed equal dedication to preserving life. It was a combination that no other species had ever managed to achieve. Admiral Stone's final report to Earth was simple. "The Zephyrian Empire has been reminded that humans choose peace not from weakness, but from strength. The galaxy is safe, for now." But everyone knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had awakened from its peaceful sleep, and the galaxy would never be the same. The final assault on Zaktor, the Zephyrian homeworld, began exactly 73 days after President Walsh's assassination. Admiral Marcus Stone commanded the largest fleet in galactic history, 2,000 ships from 15 different species, all united under human leadership. The sight was magnificent and terrible. Human dreadnoughts moved alongside Altarian crystal ships that sang battle hymns. Felinian stealth fighters hunted next to Vagan bioships that grew new weapons as they fought. Even the mechanical Nexus had sent robotic warships to join the coalition. Captain Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the UTS Vengeance, watching enemy formations gather around their homeworld. Zaktor was a fortress planet, protected by orbital defense platforms and surrounded by minefields that had taken centuries to build. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone," came the fleet-wide broadcast. "Today we end this war, but we do not end it with vengeance. We end it with justice." The Zephyrians had prepared for this moment. Supreme Warcast Zekth commanded over 3,000 ships in the system, including their most powerful vessels. Ancient weapons platforms that could destroy moons, planetary shields that had never been broken, weapons that could poison entire star systems. But they had also prepared something else, evidence that would shock the galaxy. Dr. Ryan Clark worked frantically in his intelligence center aboard Stone's flagship. Over the past weeks, human forces had captured dozens of Zephyrian facilities and found disturbing evidence of their true plans. "Admiral," Ryan reported, "we've decoded their complete war strategy. The assassination was just phase 1. They planned to eliminate 43 different species entirely." Stone felt his blood run cold. "Genocide. Systematic extermination," Ryan confirmed. They had detailed plans for biological weapons, planetary bombardment, and cultural destruction. Every peaceful species in the galaxy was marked for extinction. The evidence was overwhelming. Weapons factories dedicated to producing species-specific poisons. Research facilities where Zephyrian scientists had studied the best ways to cause suffering to different alien biologies. Prison camps designed to hold billions of beings before their execution. "Broadcast this to the fleet," Stone ordered. "Every ship needs to understand what we're fighting against." As the evidence spread through the coalition forces, anger replaced fear. These weren't warriors fighting for territory or resources. They were stopping monsters who planned to empty the galaxy of all life, except their own. The battle for Zaktor lasted 72 hours and became the stuff of legend. Captain Danny Brooks led the fighter assault, his Reaper squadron diving through defensive fire that could melt asteroids. His pilots had learned to fight as one mind across dozens of bodies, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be at every moment. "Reaper lead to all fighters," Danny broadcast. "Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for species that haven't even been born yet." The human fighters carved through Zephyrian defenses like a hot knife through ice. Their quantum-linked tactics allowed them to coordinate attacks that no enemy could predict or counter. When one pilot found a weakness in enemy shields, all pilots exploited it simultaneously. But the real breakthrough came when Captain Laura Mitchell implemented the surrender protocol. Laura commanded the UTS Justice, a ship designed specifically for war crimes investigation. As human forces overwhelmed Zephyrian defenses, she began broadcasting evidence of their genocide plans directly to enemy ships. "Zephyrian warriors," her message said in their own language, "your leaders have lied to you. This war was never about conquest. It was about the complete destruction of all non-Zephyrian life in the galaxy." The effect was immediate and devastating. Zephyrian soldiers had believed they were fighting for the glory of their empire. Learning that their true purpose was universal genocide broke their will to fight. Entire squadrons began surrendering, refusing to participate in mass murder. Supreme Warcast Zekth watched his forces collapse from within. "Impossible," he clicked frantically. "Warriors do not abandon their posts." "These aren't warriors anymore," replied his aide. "They're thinking beings who refuse to become executioners." The tide of battle turned completely when the orbital defense platforms began switching sides. Zephyrian crews, horrified by their leaders' true plans, turned their weapons against their own command ships. Zaketh's flagship was crippled by its own defensive grid. Admiral Stone accepted the surrender of the Zephyrian Empire 3 hours later, but what happened next surprised everyone, including many humans. Instead of demanding unconditional surrender and occupation, Stone offered a choice. The Zephyrian Empire could face complete military destruction, or they could accept rehabilitation under coalition supervision. Your leaders planned genocide, Stone announced to the defeated homeworld. But genocide is not the Zephyrian way. It is the way of monsters who stole your noble warrior culture and corrupted it into something evil. The rehabilitation process began immediately. Captain Laura Mitchell led war crimes tribunals that exposed the full extent of Zephyrian leadership's planned atrocities. The evidence was so overwhelming that even the most loyal Zephyrian soldiers were horrified by what their leaders had intended. Jek and his inner circle were found guilty of planning crimes against all sentient life. But instead of execution, they faced something worse. They were forced to help rebuild the civilizations they had tried to destroy. Dr. Ryan Clark established the Threat Assessment Initiative, a galactic early warning system designed to prevent another genocide attempt. Teams of human scientists worked with reformed Zephyrian researchers to identify potential threats before they could act. The goal isn't to punish the Zephyrian people, Ryan explained to the Galactic Council. The goal is to make sure no species ever again plans the extinction of all others. The war's end brought profound changes to galactic civilization. Humanity established the Galactic Defense Corps, a permanent military force with representatives from all coalition species. Commander Jake Sullivan, promoted to admiral, led peacekeeping operations across the galaxy. We learned something important, Jake told his officers. Peace doesn't mean being defenseless, it means being strong enough to protect those who can't protect themselves. The human ships that had terrified the galaxy were converted into mobile hospitals and emergency response vessels. The same weapons that had broken the Zephyrian Empire now cleared asteroid fields and fought natural disasters. But the most important change was philosophical. The galaxy had learned that evil could hide behind any flag, speak any language, and claim any noble purpose. Vigilance was the price of peace. The story reached its conclusion with the dedication of the Catherine Walsh Memorial Station. The massive space fortress was positioned at the exact center of the galaxy, serving as both a symbol of peace and a guardian against future threats. President-elect Jonathan Hayes spoke at the ceremony, his words broadcast to every inhabited world. Kate Walsh believed that peace required strength, and strength required wisdom. We honor her memory by protecting the innocent and helping the lost find their way home. Admiral Stone stood beside the memorial statue of Earth's fallen leader. Around him, representatives from 47 species pledged to maintain the peace she had died trying to build. She would be proud, Stone said quietly to Dr. Ryan Clark. We didn't just win a war. We saved the soul of galactic civilization. Ryan nodded, watching children from a dozen different species play together in the station's observation deck. Human peacekeepers stood guard, their weapons ready, but their hearts committed to protection rather than destruction. The funny thing is, Ryan said, the Zephyrians were right about one thing. Humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. We're dangerous to anyone who threatens peace. The final scene showed the galaxy as it was meant to be, diverse, peaceful, and protected by those strong enough to defend it. Humanity had learned the greatest lesson of all. Sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be prepared for war. But they had also learned something else. The greatest strength wasn't the ability to destroy enemies, but the wisdom to turn enemies into friends. The Zephyrian Empire was gone, but the Zephyrian people were finding their place in a galaxy that valued life over conquest. The galaxy was safe, and it would remain safe as long as humans remembered both their capacity for war and their commitment to peace. They had become not just the galaxy's protectors, but its conscience, a reminder that true strength came from choosing mercy over vengeance. President Walsh's dream of universal peace lived on, protected by the very warriors she had helped transform from conquerors into guardians.